What's going on, people? So like I was saying in this video, it's Air Max month, right? So usually I like to get a couple new shoes to talk about, to kind of throw some reviews out there. Last year and I think the year before that or whatever, I bought a lot of things. This time I figured let's not do that, because then you just end up with a lot of things, and it's like, I have a lot of shoes as is. I don't need to add to these numbers too much. But this was something that I was like, whoa, well, that's kind of cool. Let's add that to the list. So down there's what you're looking at on the side of the box and all that good stuff, right? And it seemed like these people that were making all that noise in the last video seemed to have stopped, so that's kind of cool. Actually, I should have put these further down. But anyway, so what we're going to do, we're going to work through these 3 reviews this afternoon, right? Then I knocked out that one, now I'm on this one, and then these 270s will be last, exactly where they deserve to be, last. So, let's go ahead, in case anybody's curious, I did get these from Sneaker Politics, right? For the cool price of $200 even. $185 with $15 for shipping. But they do send you this fancy sticker, so that kind of makes it worth it now, doesn't it? So let's sit that down there because it is completely unnecessary, and talk about some shoes. This right here is the Nike Air Max Plus Drift in the Phantom and Armory Blue colorway. Is that right? Is that right? Yeah. So there we go, Phantom and Armor. There's some other words out there if you like look up the style codes or whatever. I don't know what they're doing with the name of this. It's freaking weird to me, but it's a pretty cool shoe. But don't take my word for it. I'm going to show you some pictures, talk about some things, then you can decide for yourself if this is actually a pretty cool shoe or something you could just maybe not get. Let's go ahead and we'll start with the bottom. That sounds fair. Down there, what you're looking at on the bottom, right, is a gum outsole, kind of like I was mentioning in the last video, but this time around it's got that really nice color to it, and I am a huge fan of that. Got some of this blue sprinkled in there, so that's a nice color. You got this little pinkish beigeish sort of thing going on as well. It's a very nice color combination they have down there. And now moving up to the midsole and stuff, before we get into that, you do have the bottom piece kind of peeking through on the outer side with like the pinkish color, and then over here on the inner side you have the bluish color. So it's just one of those things that I think is like a really nice touch as far as the presentation goes, right? But as far as the rest of the midsole goes, it's all going to be your standard kind of stuff from like typical Air Max Plus looks. So it's going to be pretty familiar to a lot of people, right? I do like the color that they went with for the bubbles. It's got that nice bluish color. And then if you look at the inside, as I often bring up because somebody passed it on to me years ago, on the inside here, the bubble is always going to be in that red and yellow, or yellow and red if you want to go top to bottom. And so there's that. Now, if you look at these from like the top down sort of angle, right, there's a fair amount going on here, right? I mean, the colors that I've seen all across the internet look like this is going to be a pretty promising release as far as options later down the line, as long as they stick with it. But at least for now, with this particular one, it's pretty good, right? It's got a lot of stuff happening, not too much I don't think, at least not in my personal opinion. But we'll get into it a little bit closer, give you some other things to think about before you consider buying these or not buying these. Whatever your choice is. Doesn't much matter to me. Now, around here with this toe box situation, right? On the top of here, all this like off-white sort of color, it's going to be this weird plasticky feeling stuff that you often see on like trail shoes and things like that are made for like puddles and wet weather and all that, so it's kind of cool for that, and it feels nice. It's not like great or anything, but it's not bad, it's just that it does make for this to be overall a fairly rigid feel when you put it on. And usually I'll mention this stuff later on in the video, but I'm just going to put it out there now because it's mildly important, because you don't have all that mesh that you normally have making up this shoe like you would have on a standard Air Max Plus. So you're kind of locked in a little bit more. You notice that if you try to wiggle your toes around and stuff, this does not expand in the same way that meshes do. So expect things to feel just a little bit different. Anyway, so looking past that though, I do like the colors they went with. So you look in here, you got this brown, you got that beige sort of color, works together pretty well. Behind that, you do have, the rest of it is going to be the standard mesh that you're used to. So in the beginning part of the front part area, it's kind of like that reddish color, and then as you go to the middle piece, it becomes mildly white, And then as you get to the back, that's where it becomes more blue, right? Just drifting from one color to the next. It's kind of a cool look. I like the way it came out. And also, if you look at these as the light hits it in different ways, it's not a 3M effect, but it is a nice sort of shimmer to it. So I like that like a lot. It's a subtle detail, but it really just adds to the look overall, at least in my opinion. Now as you get to the back though, like the back third or so of this shoe, that's where you see a whole lot of that weird plasticky stuff that they have, this odd little exoskeleton that they have built around this. Almost reminds me like the Venom suit in a way, you know, something like that. So you have that happening. Actually, I think that was the same sort of material on the bottom of those Adidas shoes. Either way, so on the outside, you're going to have this blue Nike swoosh over there. On the inside, you're going to have a Nike swoosh as well, but this one isn't colored, at least not on this particular colorway anyways. And then as you get to the back though, splitting the difference, you have tuned air back there, right? So not a whole lot going on as far as creativity for the most part, but the front piece, that's holding it down, at least in my opinion. Jumping back around, speaking of the front and stuff, where the laces are. So right off the top, let's talk about those. Now, I like the way that they have the laces for the standard Air Max Plus. And these, when I first pulled them out of the box, they seemed a little weird because they seemed so small and thin, you know? It just was odd to me, you know? It's just not what I expected. It is actually the same style of the Air Max Plus laces, just thinner. So they still have that somewhat flat, somewhat round sort of look and all that. It's just, they just aren't overall as big. So there you go. And now looking down at the tongue, a lot of the same stuff that you saw on the outside, right? It's just that it's still got that sort of shimmery thing going on, but it's going to be just plain brown, nothing too extra going on there. And then on the top piece, as you get to the very top where the tongue tag thing is, or whatever you want to call it. So I didn't realize this when I did the unboxing because you're just breezing through things, but so you have it up here. You have this stitched thing, and then you have this little air slapped on there, right? It's kind of a cool look. What I did notice is that this is not fully stitched down, so you can kind of put your finger behind there or whatever. Or you can use this to kind of just like, I don't know, tuck the laces up in there so they're not just flopping around. Whatever you want to do, you know, or you can just not do anything with it, right? But it's just a little detail I figured I'd throw in there. And then on the back of the tongue, it feels basically like you would expect of any other Air Max Plus. So they didn't drift too far away from the original style, but at the same time they did put a nice little spin on it. So I do like what they have going on here. Now, as far as the rest of the inside goes, down in there, it's going to be just your standard plain brown, right? They didn't really do a whole lot with that, and I get it, it's the inside of the shoe, like what would you even do in there? So you just have that T in air, and that's pretty much it. Speaking of pretty much it, I think that's pretty much it for the overall viewing of this shoe. So let's move on, knock out some personal thoughts, and then sizing. Personally, I was really into these when I first saw them. I wasn't sure I wanted to pay the full price for them because, again, it's an Air Max Plus. And I was like, well, maybe they'll like come down later. I'm kind of cheap. I don't know if I've really articulated that so clearly, but I'm pretty cheap. But I figured, you know what? It's Air Max month. I'm going to splurge. It's even birthday month, I guess. Some people say that. It seems weird because it just does. But either way, I figured I'll splurge a little bit. I'll get these because maybe they'll be pretty cool when I get them. Or they won't be, and it'll still be something to talk about. And as it is, they're working out pretty great. I like these a whole lot. I'm not trying to oversell them, right? It's just, I like them. Will you like them? Maybe. I would highly suggest that you wait and see what other colors are going to come around because I've seen a couple coming soon shots when I was looking something up about these. And then past that, there's also the fact that the price should come down as those other colorways start to come around. I mean, this is the first one that I've seen, and I honestly thought that it was like a special release from sneaker politics at first, and then I realized later it wasn't because I hadn't seen it anywhere. But this is the first one I've seen, so I'm sure that this one will stick around for a while because like the first colorways seems to be the one like that stands the longest. I mean, at least that's how it worked with the last couple Air Max models that I tried out. So yeah, I like them a lot. You might like them too or whatever, but before you go settling on if you should buy them or not, the sizing and all the comfort and all that stuff, you know, it's something you might want to consider. So I guess I can share some thoughts on that whole thing, and that way if you do opt to spend your money on these, you have an idea which one to get, right? So let's do that. Sizing wise, right? Now, I have a size 9.5 foot. It's been measured in one of those things, and that's just what's been working out for me, so it must have been accurate. I bought these in a 9.5, and it's working out all right, right? Now, as I was walking around in these, you know, I'll say the same thing like I said before in the live. They felt like they were a little, I don't know, they felt a little thinner in some ways, you know? I don't know what the deal was with that, but it just did. Excuse me, it didn't, that was last, these didn't feel quite so thin as I was expecting to, because I guess it's just like the Air Max Plus sometimes it makes you think it's going to be a little bit thinner, but these, they weren't so bad. But the problem to me was more that this little exoskeleton that they have on here, right? So that, it's such a rigid feel that it kind of just takes away from the stretchability and of the overall upper, right? Because normally it's like mesh. So if you're gonna buy these, I mean, true to size is probably still gonna be good for you. But if you are hoping that like they'll just kind of like, if they don't work out, if you're kind of cutting it close and you think maybe they'll just break in over time, and I don't think so. I think they're just gonna be here to stay. So I would highly suggest going and trying these out, right? Whenever they do make it into stores, they seem like, if you're good with like the Air Max Plus, you'll probably be good with like these in the same size, but it's just the overall construction of them is a little odd. But past that, the comfort is still the same, right? Walking around in them, it felt like a normal Air Max Plus, and I do like those, so there is that. But another thing that I would consider adding in there, as far as something also to think about, is that these do feel a little heavy, like when you lift them up, like when you're holding them in your hands. Now, when you're talking about them, excuse me, when you're wearing them or whatever, you won't notice that weight quite as much because it's not like a huge difference. Like it's not like going from a boot to a shoe or anything. But maybe over time it could be slightly noticeable, right? Maybe just a little bit of extra fatigue as you're walking around in them. I can't vouch for it because I only walked around in them here, but it's just something that I'll throw out there because in my hands, these are freaking heavy, like seriously heavy. And it's not my favorite thing, but they look really cool. So I guess I'll just kind of let that slide. Either way, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about these things. So I'm just going to stop my rambling right there and let you guys go on, do whatever it is what you want to do as far as the sizing and stuff. I just say what worked out for me. And in this particular case, true to size worked out for me. So if it doesn't work out for you, or it does, whatever, I would highly suggest you still just kind of throw your little opinion down below, because some people like to hear other people's opinions. I mean, just hearing mine, kind of not really the way to go. Getting a well-rounded source of people to listen to or read from, you know, that could be something. So either way, there's that. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm going to move on and talk about some Air Max 270s, which is, they aren't my favorite model, you know, they never have been, never really cared for them. I just thought, I'm gonna buy a pair. It's been like 5 years. Let's see if I feel any different. Do I feel any different? Well, I think the tone of my voice kind of tells you that I don't, now doesn't it? Later, people. One thing I forgot to mention in the Air Max Plus drift video was somebody had asked me about if I was going to do a comparison video to talk about the differences from the standard Air Max Plus to the drift version. No, I'm not. It would be super helpful to a lot of people. I don't overlook that, right? It's very much a fact. I just don't want to do it because it takes a lot of effort, a lot of work that I'm not trying to put into it right now. And if you don't believe me, well, go watch any of my other like comparison type videos that I've done in the past with Vapor Maxes or Ultra Boost, whatever, and make one of your very own in that same style with all the extra bells and whistles and videos and pictures and whatever. Yeah, and then let me know how that worked out for you. It's gonna work out poorly because it sucks a lot.